Hello, this is David Sinclair at Camden Town Radio. Keep rocking.
Okay, so I'm pleased to say I'm joined in the Camden Town Radio Garden today by David Sinclair. Hi David, how's it going?
Hello Howard, all good, thank you.
Great. Now it's a little bit on the cool side today, so you do have a jacket on.
I'm channeling my Liam Gallagher today.
Yes, you may need the hood later. Yes. Anyway, it's great to see you, and I believe you've got quite a lot going on with the David Sinclair 4 at the moment.
Well, we're going through one of our periods of activity. You know, it's troughs and periods of excitement and periods of that are more of a quiet period.
Yes.
But at the moment, we've got a few gigs coming up, and
Yes.
we've got a new live track coming out on a live album in November the 7th.
Right.
Which was a show that we recorded a while ago, about a year ago.
Yes.
And we were doing a show in a venue called the Sound Lounge in Sutton, which is in the South London.
Yes.
And unbeknownst to us, they were recording it.
Oh, right.
We didn't even know. And then they came to us afterwards and said, we're going to put out a live album of all the best bands that have been on over the year, 10 tracks.
Yes.
And we want you to be one of them. So I was a bit sceptical. I said, well, what does it sound like? You know, we didn't know you were even recording it. So they sent me the track, and it sounded really great. And it sounded really surprisingly good to me.
Yes.
And so anyway, long and the short, they've got a lot of, they've combined it with all the other bands they'd chosen, the other 9 bands, and that comes out on the 7th of November. So that's exciting.
Yes. And you've got a gig coming up at the end of October, I believe, as well.
The next one we're doing is October 27th at the Crawdaddy, which is in Richmond.
Yes.
It's a very famous gig where the Rolling Stones and the Yardbirds made their name in the 60s.
Oh, right. Yes.
It hasn't changed that much, to be honest. I mean, the crowd has changed.
Yes.
But it's in Richmond Athletic Ground, just near just in Richmond. It's a good place. So anyway, Friday, October 27th.
Yes.
And we'll be rocking it up there.
Right. Now, has the lineup changed much in the last few years? Or?
The lineup's always sort of subject to various changes.
Yes.
But the constant factor has been myself as the singer and the songwriter and guitarist, and Jeff Peel, who's the lead guitarist. Who's a tremendous player. He's the Eric Clapton of the 21st century. I think that's what I think of him as. He's a very, very tasteful and accomplished lead guitarist. So he and I, between us, really have been holding the things together. We've also now got Derek White playing the bass, who's a very experienced player.
Right.
And at the Crawdaddy we'll be joined by Will Cohen on the drums, and also Laurie Garman, who's a harmonica player who used to play in the Yardbirds. So sort of back to the future for Laurie going to the Crawdaddy. That's where the Yardbirds made their name.
All right. So it sounds a good lineup to look forward to there. Okay. Now I know that you were and still are a big fan of going to shows, and I believe you saw some big acts, but in their earlier days, such as the Stone Roses.
Well, I saw the Stone Roses fairly early in the day.
Yes.
Although they were pretty big act by the time I got to see them. But I think it might have been one of their first or earlier London gigs. And they played Alexandra Palace.
Oh right, yes.
Which was obviously a very big venue, and they weren't, even in those days, they weren't that well known in London. But how they filled it up was they sent about 10 coachloads of people from Manchester showed up. I remember going to the venue and being astonished that the number of coaches that were there. It was like an away football match.
Yes.
And the Manchester flag was flying, so that was pretty powerful show as well. Very good show.
Yes, I understand you saw the Arctic Monkeys in one of their early shows.
Well, I saw the Arctic Monkeys at the venue that I think was called the Astoria. It was the LA2, I think.
Oh, okay.
It might have been, I forget what it was exactly called, but I think it was the Astoria, which has long since closed down.
That's right, near Tottenham Court Road, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, that's a sizable venue, but they were still at the point where that was right in the early days of the internet.
Yes.
And the extraordinary thing about that was that everybody knew the lyrics to all the words, and the record had only been out about 2 days or something, and they'd done a lot of file sharing. That was it. It was the time, sort of pre-streaming.
Okay. Yes.
They were very quick to get onto that file sharing, which at the time was illegal, I think.
Yes.
And so it was an extraordinary thing because you weren't used to seeing bands that you didn't know the record, you hadn't heard the record. How did everybody know the songs? It was a very good moment where you realised the tide of history was flying pretty swiftly at that point.
Yes. Yeah. Now you've been gigging in bands since the late 70s, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I believe in the early days of the band Dire Straits, you supported them at a show, is that right?
We supported Dire Straits just when they were beginning to break through. They were still, they were a strange band because it was the middle of punk, for goodness sake. And we were quite a punk band that I was in at the time.
Yes.
And we were playing at a place called the Rock Garden in Covent Garden. I don't know if that's still going, probably not. And it was like a basement place, very noisy, echoey sort of small gig, but very enclosed.
Oh yes.
And Dire Straits were headlining, we were supporting, and Mark Knopfler, I don't know, they'd done a few gigs that week, and I guess he was working as well, probably. I think, was he a school teacher, or was he one of those? So anyway, he was absolutely shattered. He was exhausted, and the band sort of came in to the tiny dressing room. It was really, really small, and he just sort of put a bunch of coats and clothes and things under this table, and just went down there and went sound asleep. And he was under there all through our set, and really pretty much until it was time for them to go on. Then somebody sort of prodded him and pulled him out, and he went out and they played and had a great night, I'm sure. But they were obviously going to be successful because they were just of one of a kind at that point, and everybody was doing the punk thing, and they were just so effortlessly going in their own direction. Quite a good lesson, that, for people, I think.
Yes, to do the music you want to do.
I think so, or the music you can do, the music you're good at, and I think that's you're true to yourself. And Mark Knopfler was definitely that, and he's always been a very powerful character as a musician.
Yes, he's liked to go his own way. And, yes, I guess with yourself being in a punk band, there must have been quite a few opportunities around Camden Town at that time, were there?
We probably did play in Camden at that point. I'm just trying to think exactly where. Again, Dingwalls, of course, was still pretty much the place you'd want to go to play.
Yes.
I played Dingwalls with T.V. Smith's Explorers a few times in the, I suppose that would be the start of the 80s.
Yes.
It was before they changed it, they changed the whole layout. Dingwalls used to be the most strangely laid out venue. The bar was right in the middle, and you had this little corridor to get down to the stage area.
That's right.
And then you had an area at the back, so the whole thing was very awkward. And you had punch-ups in the middle because people were trying to go and trying to get past each other. That's where Bob Harris got duffed over by the Sex Pistols.
Oh, right.
I think that there was some kind of fracas. Sid Vicious took it upon himself to express his disdain for Bob Harris and the hippies, and it was a fairly ugly incident. But I think that was in Dingwalls. But, so we played around in Camden. It was obviously a place to come even right back then. The markets and it's always been a sort of counterculture place.
Yes.
Whatever the counterculture's been, really.
Now, as well as your career in music, you had also a career alongside in journalism, was that right?
Indeed, I was a journalist, a music journalist of some note for actually most of my working life.
Right.
I wrote for the Times of London, and also for Rolling Stone in America.
Yes.
And and various other publications on an ad hoc freelance basis.
Yes. And one of the biggest events you covered was Live Aid, is that right?
Yeah, I did. I was at Live Aid in 1986.
Yes.
And quite an event it was. I mean, highly memorable in every respect, and quite breathtaking. What can I say? We've all seen it now. I mean, it's something that's sort of passed into the collective memory, obviously.
Yes.
But to actually be there on the day was quite a great experience.
Yeah. Did you get some good interviews with people on the day?
Not from Live Aid, no. The Live Aid, I was really just there to see the show. I did actually go to the Live Aid anniversary, which was called Live 8.
Oh, yes.
Which happened, I believe it was 20 years later.
Yes, that's right, yes.
They did Live 8 in Hyde Park.
Yes.
And a lot of the same acts came and played again, sort of
that's
including The Who reformed
yes.
for it, Pink Floyd reformed for it.
Yes.
You know, it's quite a big event.
I think Paul McCartney was there.
Paul McCartney, yes, he
Yes.
was there. He didn't do any reforming, I don't think. He just played his show. U2, I think, were there. It was big
Yes.
show. I got stuck around the back. I was there at that show. I was covering it for Rolling Stone, and what they wanted me to do, they weren't so interested in the music. They wanted me to get quotes, was what they were after. Just get people to talk to you about the show and what had happened, you know.
Oh, yes.
And most people were kind of quite difficult to get hold of. You know,
Yes.
you tried buttonholing Paul McCartney backstage at a place and said, "Oh, hi, can you just give me a chance?" But Annie Lennox was quite the reverse. She'd just done her show,
Right.
and she was in a little caravan, you know, sort of backstage cabin type
Yes.
place where they were, you know, the artists were able to, you know, changing rooms basically. And she was obviously just wanted to talk. I mean, it was like she was on a real high. She'd done her set, she was finished,
Yes.
and there was no one else around except me. And so she just bent my ear for about, I don't know, 20 or 25 minutes, non-stop, about the event and how important it was and how much she felt for people that were unable to put food in their mouths. And it went on and on and on. And the Who were playing out there. I couldn't even get out. I missed pretty much the whole of the Who's set.
Oh.
And I was trying to say, well, thanks, Annie, thank you very much. But she was, she kept me going for quite a long time. So, anyway, bless her.
Now, you mentioned recording. I believe you have had a new album out recently. Is that right?
Well, the last album we put out, it was called Apropos Blues, and we were very pleased with it. Thrilled, in fact. It's a great record. It's actually the 6th one I've done, 6th album.
Yes.
And it was very well received, got well reviewed. Blues Matters called it. Chose it as one of their albums of 2022.
Yes.
And it's been doing good. You know, we sell a lot of copies at the gigs and so forth, and it's available everywhere, Amazon, all the usual retail outlets, and of course on Spotify.
Are those CDs available at your shows as well?
Yeah, we've got a big box. There's plenty of them. There's no shortage at the moment.
Right. Sounds good. Now, online, where's the best place for people to find out about your music?
The one-stop destination for the DS4, as we're known, is the website. Basically, it's www.davidsinclair4.com.
Yes.
And if you get to that, then the links to everything else are there, because, you know, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual destinations. But if you just Google that, David Sinclair FOUR,
Yes.
that gets you to HQ,
Right.
or the Fortress as we call it.
Okay. That's great. Now, as you're here in Camden Town, I must just ask you about Camden. Do you have any plans for gigging in this area? Or?
We haven't got any gigs here right now, but it's such a great place to come to. You know, you walk. There's such a vibe and an energy as you come into that main Camden High Street, just where I met you, around the side of Coco.
Yes.
It's buzzing. Everything's loads of people, loads of things going on.
Yes.
We have played here before. We've played at Pride, the bar up the road, and we played at Dingwall's several times.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And obviously, it's a great destination. I think there's more venues per square mile in Camden than just about any other part of London, wouldn't you say?
I think
The
there is,
Electric Ballroom,
Yes. Jazz Cafe.
the Enterprise up the top there. There's
right.
there's loads, and there's a new one, the Camden Arts Centre, is it called? I've been up there as well.
Yes.
Saw a gig up there not long ago.
Yes.
Fantastic area. So
Yes.
we'll be here soon. Don't you worry.
That'd be great. We look forward to that. Great. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today, David, in Camden Town. We wish you the best with the latest album and the up and coming shows.
Thanks, Howard. Great pleasure to be here. Lovely day.